Welcome to another edition of It's the Story That Matters. I am Ezekiel Drews, the man in a pink suit, the founder of MIFA and Lucid Films. And today, joining me for the It's the Story That Matters podcast, we have Greg Kirkpatrick Jr. of Another Day. Thanks for joining me, Greg.
Thanks for having me, sir.
Yeah. Well, good to see you. And we'll start off really quick here. We're gonna cover everything under the sun regarding Another Day. But Another Day had a really good weekend last weekend. You had 16 nominations, 6 wins, and 5 honorable mentions, which is that's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, it was real crazy and incredibly flattering. Thank you so much. We were watching on I think Instagram.
Instagram
So
Live, probably.
yeah, so it was me and the wife and the 3 kids, and every single time Another Day or something from Another Day got nominated, it was like shh, shh. And then when somebody else won, we were like, that's probably a mistake. Uh,
Oh my gosh.
I'm joking, of course. Obviously, there were several amazing films. In fact, one of your short films that I believe won something, Over My Dead Body, I think it
Hmm.
is.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of seeing that at another festival in Pennsylvania over the summer, and
Oh, wow.
absolutely blew me away. I love that movie, and I'm so glad you guys were able to have that and show it as well. Anyway, yeah, every time Another Day got nominated, and whether it was best comedy, best drama, especially best director, when you name the what was it, the not the first runner up, honorable mention,
Hmm.
and you name them first, and my wife is like, okay, that means he's gonna say you. I'm like, there's no way. Look at all these other nominees. There's not a chance. And then it just kept happening, man. Uh,
Yeah.
Very unexpected and
Well,
very flattering.
well
Thank you so
deserved.
much.
So you mentioned other film festivals that Another Day has screened it. Obviously, and unfortunately, we weren't able to show Another Day
Mm,
just due to a little bit with the running time, which I've noticed
yeah.
personally as attending other films is that a lot of times when films go past like an hour and a half, it becomes very, um, especially like so for MIFA, for example. So we had, in terms of, in order to make sure there was time for Q&A and director statements and everything for the
Mhm.
films that we were showing, we had a grand total of about 14 hours, but involving Q&As and statements and all this other stuff, really we only had about 11 hours of
Right.
actual screening time available in order to just make sure people got a chance to talk about their film. So when you have a film that's over that hour and a half mark, it really, it's hard. And I will tell you, having seen Another Day, having had a review that I shared on MIFA's website, um, it is definitely a film worth watching, especially if you are a 90s kid or an 80s kid that's in there. I would say, if anybody's looking specifically for a film that is a love letter to the 90s, it's Another Day. Just the humor, the wit, the freedom to just, hopefully I don't get canceled over this, but just kind of make a joke about being gay or whatever. Like that's how it was in the 90s, and that's all part of just that experience that we all, had. Obviously, some of those would be, different nowadays, but if you are looking specifically for, hey, I was a 90s or 80s guy, Another Day is going to have that humor, and it's very well done. It's and as you mentioned down there for best director, it's very well directed. It's very intentional in the way that you presented the film. So thank you for submitting that to us, and hopefully we can help you with getting more people's eyes on it. So I
Well,
guess
thank you, Ezekiel, for giving me 2 hours and 17 minutes of your time because you got the director's cut. And
that's the director's cut.
yes, and that is, I acknowledge, way too long. But I even cut 2 scenes out of it to get to 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Oh
But
wow.
that is the next step here in post production, is to try to trim about half an hour off of it and get it down to maybe that 145 mark. I may not be the right person to edit that because I'm so close to it, uh,
Hmm.
and just taking things out and trying to lock it in. Have the other scenes just snap together so much faster. I'm the type of guy where I'm really a student of the human condition, and there are several points in a scene in this film where the only thing that's happening is we're watching the character think. Now,
Hmm.
it's not like we do this, for minutes at a time, but it might be 3 seconds where you see the character. It's like you can see them pondering how to respond, and it's usually something smart ass. But I love seeing that aspect of a character, and it helps me to get to know that character better by
Yeah.
seeing how they react under pressure. And in real life, most of us aren't whip snap witty like that. So, um, I hate to be like, you know, hey, give me a second. I'm going to think of something really, really witty to respond with here.
Yeah.
That's just how real life is, and so I like to focus on that. And I could probably shave 4 minutes off the total run time by just taking away reaction shots or pauses. So I'll get to that, because as you mentioned, you only have so much time at a festival, and especially when you're already running a feature, that's
Hmm.
going to take out a good percentage of the screening time that you have available, and then you submit a movie that's as long as another day. I'm not doing myself any favors.
Yeah.
So, like I
Well,
said,
what might be
thanks.
helpful is to have a maybe a festival cut that you find that's more time conducive, but then save
Right.
that director's cut that you got, because it really is, in my opinion, it's a very great film,
Oh,
and
thank
I
you so
laughed my
much.
butt off.
Good.
And it was also, I got to tell, and without spoiling anything, but when it got to obviously towards the end of the film and stuff, and I could tell where things were going, and I was like, oh, it's literally like tearing my heart out to hear some of these things that, especially when it, I'll be honest. I've been friends with women in the way that Derek and Amber are,
Mm.
and so having gone through experiences like that, it's very identifiable. And I think that even nowadays, people would still find it hard. Is where is that line where friendship and romance kind of blends or separates or merges again, back and forth and back and forth. And so I think that the director's cut is a great film in and of itself. Maybe that festival cut might help with just being able to get the film out there in front of more eyes.
Mm.
But definitely, I would say that keep at least this version of it for maybe for distribution. I would say that would be my ideal, would be to have that full one, because it is really funny. And even just like parts where I believe the character is Melissa. Um, is it right, Melissa? I want to say. Um, have it here. Yeah, Christina's character is Melissa.
Mm.
She's only in there for a little bit, but there's so much that is brought out just in that little bit, and it's like, well, where can you cut a scene like that? No, it's kind of hard because it's very
Right.
integral to where the movie flows to. So, um, why don't you kind of tell me some information around, um, I know some of this stuff, so I just want so our viewers and stuff to get to get your views on this. But where did this stem from? I know you started writing this back like almost 25 years ago.
I wrote the first draft of Another Day when it was based in real time, in today's time, which was 1999 is when I started the first draft. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so basically the story goes is I was leaving for the Air Force, and I was engaged, and I went to basic training, and I went to tech school for the Air Force, broadcast school. I was a radio TV broadcaster for the American Forces Network, Good Morning Vietnam style.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I came home from tech school, and I was home for about a month before I went to my first duty station in Korea. And while I was home, on leave, I accidentally met the guy that my fiance had just started seeing 2 weeks before I got home, and continued to see behind my back while I was home. Um,
Wow.
so I went and did that assignment in Korea. And then I came home and ended up going to Germany, which is where my wife and I were supposed to go together. And I got there, and it wasn't a great assignment for me. It was TV only. I was an airman first class, so pretty low ranking. Everybody I worked with was a staff sergeant and above, and married. I'm the only one who lived in the dorms. I missed out on the most basic aspect of military service, which is camaraderie with those you serve with. I was always alone, and I did a very solo type of job, bouncing around from country to country every other week, shooting a TV story by myself, and then coming back to Germany, writing the script, editing the video, making sure it gets to the news, and then I'm off to another country to do it all over again. So that was my life there for a while, and I didn't really have a hobby. Other than watching movies, I didn't have friends because, like I said, I was so low ranking and the only one who lived in dorms. And as outgoing as I am in that type of job, by the time I got back to my dorm room, I just wanted to keep to myself because it's exhausting having to be on all the time. And I didn't want to be that guy. So I was miserable, and I was still hung up on this girl who was now with somebody else and was already starting a family with somebody else. And I decided to write about it. And if you're going to write about something, why not make it into a movie, right? So I got this book called How to Write a Movie in 21 Days. And within 3 weeks, or within a couple of weeks, I sat down and wrote Fade In for the first time and just started going from there. And that is where the movie comes from. Derek is basically me from that portion of my life where he's been destroyed by a woman, and he takes that love that he had and he molds it into hate, and not just for that one woman, but to all women in general. And he decides that the best way that he can get back on at this one woman is by sleeping with as many other women as possible, to hurt them and to continue to hurt himself. Because I don't know if it comes out real well in the script. You let me know as you've watched it. But Derek hates himself as much as he hates others. Is that something that you picked up on?
Yeah, it definitely comes across that way. Very kind of like self-destructive behavior.
Yes.
Where it's an outlet for him. Yes, it's the feeling the pleasure and release and stuff, but then just hating yourself after it, and you can kind of see it wearing down on him until he meets Amber, where everything just kind of starts to change. And
yeah, it all just clicks into place there, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's less about the physical attraction eventually and more just about the person and the friendship, which is what our relationship should be based on anyway.
Definitely. Well, that's a very, I guess I didn't realize that story was so incredibly close to home. Also, I think I might also have that book.
No kidding.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is I don't think I bought it. I think I'm trying to remember if my wife or my sister-in-law bought it for me. So I have it, and I've paged through it and looked at it, and I was like, oh, I think this is kind of the same stuff I was doing when I was making my own features. So
I recommend it. I read all the Sid Field books and all the other how-to books, but this is, How to Write a Movie in 21 Days that I bought 27 years ago was the most helpful book for me as a screenwriter that I've ever read on the subject.
Yeah. Well, obviously, so based on what you're talking about job experience wise, so you had some experience with doing like shooting some stuff, editing some stuff, not necessarily in story format, but in the traditional like narrative of a film. But you had the stuff that you were filming and stuff in other countries. So
Right.
this wasn't like breaking news, like, hey, I've never done any of this kind of thing before. Here, I'm just gonna make a film. You had some experience. Actual like work experience with like editing and stuff. So I guess I'm curious, so when you picked this back up, and how you picked this back up, if I remember correctly, was it during the pandemic?
It was, let's see, we moved to South Dakota in the summer of 2021. So it was what, the following year after
Hmm.
COVID. And I took a nap one day because it was the middle of the summer and I was on sabbatical and I dreamt that I made the movie and went to a festival and got a standing ovation. And I hadn't thought of the script in maybe a decade. I just hadn't touched it. So I woke up from that dream and downloaded the most recent version of Final Draft and imported the old script and just started rewriting right then and there. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I probably hadn't looked at the script since I don't know 2012 maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, and I remember because I looked at your I believe it was your website or even just like the Facebook page for another day, and just kind of looking at some of that creative process that you were doing, and can you tell me can you tell me for our viewers and stuff, just how did you come up with a lot of these these gags that you were with dialogue and stuff? Give me some background on
Well,
that. Give me the scoop.
it's funny. My all time favorite movie is Good Will Hunting, with the very but I have an American Pie type sense of humor.
Hmm.
So that's kind of what I think Another Day turned out to be, is a mishmash of those two types of movies at least. But man, I guess I just have a jacked up mind. I think really messed up things are funny. Like, where did the hot fudge scene come from?
Oh boy.
I have a couple thoughts, but I don't think it would be particularly appropriate. But I just came up with stuff that I thought was funny, and there's a lot of stuff that was in original drafts of the script that, over time, I realized are not particularly funny or are not funny to me now. That I ended up, getting rid of or fine tuning over the years. And then, of course, I did a complete page one rewrite once I picked this up again in 2021, and then continued to do so up until production started, basically. Um, there's a scene in an early montage where Derek and Amber have a dance. Basically,
Hmm.
she talks about how um, she went through this big breakup and she got broken up with right before prom, and so she
Hmm.
went. Um,
Yep.
and then during a montage, he creates a prom for her, and they get all dressed up and they swing dance, of course.
Of
Uh,
course.
and that's all of that is something that I wrote about 4 days before we actually went into production. Her entire background on this breakup, and then throwing in that scene, and it was so surreal being able to sit there and create a scene knowing that I'm literally going to film it in a week. So it was really exciting. And when I look back on the film now and I think of it without that backstory for her and that pain for her, and without that dream realized that Derek provides for her during the montage. I think it's a lesser film without that. So I was really proud of those two things. But as
Yeah.
far as the really messed up comedy goes, man, I don't know, man. I just think of shit that's funny for me. Um, you know,
Yeah.
trying to just masturbate in peace while watching some porn while your buddy comes and knocks on the door and you're out of lotion. So the only thing you had was,
Dish soap.
wash soap. And then you got to wash all off because there's no time to finish. And then clearly there's going to be bubbles. Um, what can I say, man? It just felt right.
Oh man,
And I
that is messed up, but that was definitely funny to kind of kick the film off that way. Uh,
and Kyle
very
Swanson, man, he killed it as Beatty.
yes.
Absolutely killed it. And you wouldn't know it from watching the movie, but Kyle Swanson is actually ripped and kind of a badass. But the way that he played Beatty, it's like I wrote it for him. Uh,
Yeah.
he was amazing and
Yeah.
up for anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was one of the reasons he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for that as well. Unfortunately, he lost that to TJ, but there's some very human elements that TJ brought to the role of Rob,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably I would say what probably pushed him over the line over everyone else is just for you know we've all probably been, had some friends and stuff where sometimes you get surprised about, stuff that's going on that you had no idea about. You've known this person, you talk to him every single day, and hang out with them, maybe not necessarily every day, but every week or so. And you're like, wow, I had no idea that you went through that. I'm sorry. I feel like I wasn't as good of a friend to
Right.
you, and it tugs at your heartstrings. And you're like, I really wish that I had known this, and I'm going to do better. I'm going to be a better friend. It's
Mhm.
like the Ebenezer Scrooge of friendship. Where no, please, spirit, don't take my friend away. I promise, I'll recant. I'll change my ways. And you say, I'll go buy the biggest combination of Taco Bell tacos you can get, lad, and bring them to my house. So that's
It's
messed up.
it's super funny that you bring up that particular thing, because that was the one thing that TJ didn't really get from his character, where he's
Really?
saying, I don't really know why Rob would be apologizing to Derek. I don't think you should be doing that. Can you explain it to me? And I got to give him credit, first of all, for coming to me like that and just asking, because anytime any of the actors had any ideas or would say, I don't think somebody should say that, or somebody should do this, I'd just be like, come to me. Because if you don't know why they do it, then that means you don't understand the character enough. So come to me and let me explain it to you. And it's a great opportunity for you to know the character better. And I know these characters inside and out because I've been living with them up here for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, at least half of them are based on somebody. To where when I was writing the first draft in 1999, I would actually sometimes get confused myself, and I'd be like, I think I'm going to call Beatty up. All right, figment of my imagination, and hang it back up. Um, Happened all the time, though. That's what happens
Yeah.
when you get to know your characters. So back to TJ in this scene, he didn't really get it, and I tried to explain it to him the best I can, that he's the type of guy who is so grounded he feels responsible for everyone around him. And even though Psych 101 taught me several years ago that nobody's responsible for how you feel, Rob is the type of guy who feels responsible for how everyone around him feels. And he still didn't love that answer. So I was just like, just do it because I wrote it. And he was like,
Yep.
okay. And he killed it. He
I was
killed
gonna
it
say
as
he
if
did
he
kill it. It
understood
was
it. Yeah.
awesome.
So I got to give it to him, and thank you so much for recognizing both T.J. Thomas and Kyle Swanson, because as the writer, director, producer, editor, the only person who's watched every second of the 20 hours of footage that we shot for this film, I can tell you that these two, they're the best actors in the film. Like, they carry this movie. Every scene that they're in together, they steal. Whether it's just TJ or it's just Kyle or it's them on the screen together, they steal every scene that they're in. And having them on set and watching them, and then when the scene is supposed to be over, instead of calling cut, just letting them run with it for a couple of minutes was the most joy that I had on set. And they were brilliant at improv. One very long scene at a diner ends when they're talking about Sicklecock, and Sicklecock is scripted. That is part of the script. But when we get to the end of it, and Rob is it's like a stick with a cock on it. Totally improvised. It was brilliant. I had to keep it. Those two were just the king of the two kings of improv, and it just brought me so much joy to be able to witness. And I can't tell you how many times the first AD is like, "Why the hell aren't you calling cut?" I'm just like, "Just chill, just let's let this roll." These two, we're watching geniuses here. So they brought so much to the film, and even though they're both supporting actors, supporting characters, Another Day is not what it is without those two. Hands
Yeah.
down, they carry it, in my opinion.
A lot of charisma and stuff that they bring into there. So,
Mm-hmm.
tell me about Jason Alexander. Where did Jason come from?
So he was in the original,
Besides the sitcom Seinfeld,
right, the gay character that I think Random is funny. Random is funny. So just that scene when Derek and Jason sit down together for
It's
Jason
very,
Garrett.
very intense. Very
It's
intense.
super intense, but just the pauses. So I'm going back to when I like to talk about having those pauses there. It may not be super snappy in the editing, but the pauses, the time breaks, those are what I find hilarious. So Jason Alexander, it's random, man. I mean, you're not even the star of Seinfeld, but I took that name and the frustration that this dude has over even having it because it's right at the end of, when Seinfeld ended its run in what, like 98.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets the comment all the time and he's just like, geez. So he's got to talk to everybody about it because he just assumes everybody's thinking it anyway. But so that's where that comes from. But as far as the character goes itself, I actually originally wrote that character for Kevin Smith.
Okay.
He and I
I
used
got you.
to email back and forth a lot around that time. And I was working on an action script at the time later, and he had just recently written Superman Lives. So I was in touch with him a lot via email and asking about action sequences, to which he provided zero help. But eventually, I ended up creating that character for him, thinking that I was going to make this movie myself in 2002, but the budget fell through, the money fell through, and I ended up shooting it myself 21 years later with my own money.
Mm-hmm.
So that never happened. I also, because if I wrote a scene for Kevin Smith, naturally I would write a scene for Jason Mewes, and the character I created for Jason Mewes is named Seth, and I cut the character completely out of the script. But what Jason Mewes was supposed to do is walk into the diner and notice Amber and ask her if she's ever been licked where she pees, which is a very Jason Mewes thing to ask. But
Huh.
I didn't really feel like that's something I needed to recast, so I just left that part out. Fair enough.
I have. Wow. I don't even know how to respond to that, but definitely this episode has definitely gone not safe for work plus plus plus. But I'm all for it because you know what? Sometimes it's good to shake things up, right?
Hey, man, a lot of
Um,
people ask me after reading the script, who's the audience for this movie? When you see, just the disgusting dialogue and the things that happen, like, who are you shooting this for? And I'm like, you know what? People like me and people like this guy. Um, People who can shut off the world around them and just revel in a story and characters who aren't them and not take everything so seriously until
mhm.
it's time to. And I just don't think that we make movies like that anymore. We don't make truth like that anymore. We're so afraid of offending people. And that was something that came up on set a lot. I don't think somebody should say this, or I don't think it's right to say that. And I was just like, dude, in 1999, it was perfectly acceptable. Just say it. That's why we have Amber saying midget. She was like,
Yep.
God, I don't feel right saying midget. And I was like, 25 years ago, you would have loved it. But one thing that I did not do, even though I actually play a gay character myself, saying things like the word gay as a derogatory statement just to mean
Mhm.
weird or stupid was very, very common at that point in time. And that's something that I did not do in the film,
Mhm.
as I just didn't see the point of it. I didn't find that necessary. Just, I try to make it as authentic to the 90s as I can without forcing things like that may have been part of our daily dialogue 25 years ago that you know
Mhm.
I have no problem offending people with putting taint, but I don't need to do it with gay slurs. There's
Yeah.
no reason for it. So other than that though, it's pretty true to the 90s. So
Yeah.
whenever those questions came up, because most of our cast wasn't even alive in the 90s, and those who weren't even out of kindergarten. So it's just, trust me, this is what we did, man. We sat in a
Yeah.
diner all night long. We drank coffee, we smoked cigarettes, and we talked about tits. That was life. And we did it 3 times a week.
Yep. Yeah.
So if
Well, even without that, you definitely captured, I would say, the spirit of the '90s. You know, and especially as it moved into the early 2000s and stuff, it's still kind of carried over a bit. But definitely the spirit of what you were looking for definitely came across for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, it's all about the dialogue, right?
Yeah.
They don't make movies like that anymore where you can just sit there and talk for 10 minutes straight and keep it interesting. And again, going back to people like TJ Thomas and Kyle Swanson, man, every time they're on, I can't take my eyes off the screen. And so I have a very long scene that's like 14 straight minutes in the diner, like at the table with very few interruptions. Characters come and go, and so it feels like the scene is changing up, but we're at the same location. And everybody told me you can't shoot a 14-page scene in one location nonstop. And I did the hold my beer thing, and it works because of TJ Thomas and Kyle Swanson.
Yeah.
They just destroy, man. And
Okay.
even for a scene that lasts 14 minutes in one location, I can't take my eyes off it because of those two guys.
Yeah. If you got the right people, you can make anything work
Absolutely.
for sure. Tell me a bit about. So I know you mentioned so you shot this with your own money and stuff, which is how a lot of indie filmmakers are doing it. They're just like, I can't wait for somebody to buy my script, my idea, or anything like that. I just need to go make it happen, and come hell or high water, I'm just going to do it. So I'm curious because this is a very like I said before, it's a long film. There's a lot of stuff happening here. Um, you know, tell me a bit about that struggle with getting this done, and then kind of what your plans are. I know you told me before we jumped on here that it's still in post production mode. So kind of
Mm.
tell me how you started getting the funds and everything to work on this, and the process for that, and then kind of where this is heading. Going in the next like 6 months.
Okay. Well, the money came from selling our house and, a combination of selling our house in Oregon when we moved to South Dakota in 2021 and funds that I had already previously saved. So it was the combination of the two. And then, like I mentioned, that dream that I had that made me just start rewriting. Prior to that, we're like, okay, do we want to invest in real estate or put in the bank, or what do we want to do with this money? And I got to give it to my wife when I started rewriting and decided that I wanted to actually make this movie. She was very supportive, and I'm like, you realize that I might spend every dollar we have and never see a penny of it back, and I'm okay with that because this has been my dream since I was 19, 20 years old. Um, but I can't do anything unless you're okay with it too. And she was just like, let's do it. I believe in you. I don't think you're never going to see any money back, but because I believe in you. But even if you don't, let's go. So I got to get a lot of credit to her for letting me just spend all the money that we had in the first place. And believe me, we're hurting now. So it would be great if we could sell it soon. But in order to do that, as you mentioned, a 2 hour and 17-minute runtime, at least to keep people's eyes on it, people who maybe didn't experience that firsthand, that life in the 90s, they need to keep their eyes on it. And at this point, I think the best way to do that is to take 30, 40 minutes off the runtime and to just snap it up and make it so that if you get up for 4 minutes to go to the bathroom and you come back, you're missing something. Because as it stands right now, you can get up in the middle of the movie and leave for 4 minutes and come back. And let's be honest, you probably didn't miss something other than a couple of weird, innuendos or
Maybe the pizza girl.
the pizza slut. You don't want to miss that. There were supposed to be 3, by the way, but the other ones didn't show. If you can't trust strippers to show up and keep their word, who can you even trust these days?
Yeah, everything's going to hell. Oh my God.
It's ridiculous. But I acknowledge that I need, if I'm going to get other eyes on the film, people who didn't live through this time doing similar things like you and I did, if they're going to be able to sit through these jokes and get to the heart of the film, which essentially is love and friendship and loving without reciprocation. That is what is at the heart of this film. And I think that that's whether you grew up in the 90s or the 80s, or if you're Gen Z, I think that's something that is transferable to all generations.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what it's like to love and not be loved back. And ultimately, that's what the film is about. But we have a bunch of sex jokes to help get us there, because why wouldn't we? So if
what
I
the
can,
90s were about, man.
exactly, that's what we did. We sat there at the diner talking and trying to gross each other out, right? And whoever came up with the most messed up thing won the night. Um, but if I want to get more eyes on it from other generations, I'm going to have to slice 30 to 40 minutes on it to keep it snappy and get it down to that maybe hour 40-minute mark. I don't know that I can cut it down to 90 and still keep the heart of the film intact, but maybe I can do it at 100 minutes.
Just take a bunch of like really short cuts, 30 seconds at a time, and put them on TikTok. And no, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. That's talk about ruining a film, then. Oh God,
dude, I don't even understand Instagram. Like, I don't even know how I figured out how to watch your Instagram live thing. I figured it out. Like, I ruled at MySpace. Like,
yeah.
I had an awesome song on my page. It was awesome. I knew how to do it. I don't get Instagram. I'm old. I don't understand. Whatever.
That's all right.
And there's your soundbite for this podcast, right?
I don't understand Instagram. There we go. Perfect. That's gonna be the title of the video. I don't understand Instagram.
Right.
No.
Right. I'm just going to keep making movies from the 80s and the 90s. I understand those times. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're all gonna get there at some point here. Just some different slice of the humor. It's just a different version. The world is all what they say in Game of Thrones. Everything is cocks. You know, like it all comes down to that. So jokes and everything around that. Pretty much where we're at, right? So
right. Well, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, ultimately, I think the tagline of the film is for those who use laughter to hide the pain. And going back to my own personal experiences, this is who I was at that time in Germany, alone, wifeless, and banging everything that moved to punish all women. That's exactly what I was doing, but I had this type of job where I had to be on all the time. I'm on TV every night. I'm on the radio every day. I'm on nonstop, and people recognize me, and there's no break. So I'd go be that guy, and then at night I'd go back to my dorm room and I'd be the sad, pathetic, quiet guy. And that's the battle. That's the internal battle that Derek is facing throughout the film. Is he tells Beatty early on that it's easy for him to hit on women because he just doesn't care, and he truly doesn't care, and that's why it's easy for him. And that's the type of thing that women find attractive, because they're so used to being, as he says, hit on by all these other guys all the time. They're, when a guy doesn't want them, they're intrigued. And so it was very easy for me as a broadcaster and as somebody who just truly didn't give a fuck, to hook up constantly at that age. And that's what Derek does. And it's this constant battle inside of himself where he knows beforehand it's not going to make him feel any better. He's going to be just as miserable, even if not more miserable after the fact. But you know what? Fuck that one chick who screwed me over. I'm going to do it anyway. And that's who he is. That's who I was. That's who Derek is. And watching his transition into who I believe he should be, to who I believe he wants to be, is powerful for me. And I hope, that it can be the same for others as well, to be on that journey, because he's so disgusting in the beginning. So that's why we have characters like Beatty and Rob and people who keep it grounded and keep it funny, while we hate Derek. To maybe half an hour in, we focus more on Derek more and more, and we realize, hey, wait a second, I don't hate this guy as much as I did 20 minutes ago, because he's starting to evolve. And that's kind of the goal there. And Cody McClashlin, he did a really nice job of that.
Good job, Cody.
He put together a really nice performance. I got to give him that for sure.
Definitely. All right, future plans. So the film you said is still kind of in post production. Where's the status on that? Do you have more plans for so many more festivals? What's the go-to plan from here?
Well, we're still working on the final audio mix. I have a former rock star who is, I don't know if you saw his in the credits, Gregory Scott Bergdorf was a former lead guitarist for the 90s band Zebrahead. Uh,
Okay.
and there's the band is still going, but he's a founding member and original lead guitarist for like the first 12, 15 years of the band. And I used to play Zebrahead on the radio when I was in the military in the 90s. So I've been a fan since the beginning. And I connected with him because we have a Zebrahead song in the film, and he's not in the band anymore. So I've continued to follow Zebrahead all these years. And when I had to pay the original 5 members of the band to use their song in the movie, 3 of the original ones are still in the band and 2 of them left. One of them wanted to be paid by Zelle, and I needed to use his cell phone number to do that. And I was just like, dude, I'm going to text this dude from Zebrahead. I'm just to confirm I have the right payment method. It's because I'm a nerd. And he wrote back. He's like, "Yep, go for it." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I got him." So I paid him, obviously. And then we just kind of started chatting by text. And then one night I gave him a call, and we started talking baseball and bonding over our shared love of 80s and 90s random baseball knowledge. And he said he's always wanted to do movie stuff. And I was like, why don't you do
There you
the
go.
music for my movie? And since you're so used to having, controlling Zebrahead in the studio, not controlling them, but doing a lot of the producing of their music yourself and mixing it, why don't you go ahead and do my sound mix too? So we worked that out. And, I used to go see Zebrahead in concert, and now I'm buddies with their former lead guitarist. So that's something that he's still working on now. And he has another band now called Bourbon Brothers, which is more of a blues type of thing that he does in the Atlanta area. And they are slam nonstop. Um, but so he's got to finish that up, and then we got to cut the film down. I don't know if I'm going to do the edit myself. Like I said, I might be too close to slice 30 plus minutes off of it. So we might need to bring in somebody else who couldn't care less, and they just want to put together the best movie possible.
Definitely.
So hopefully we have that knocked out in the next 3-4 months. Get the trailer out there, get eyes on it, because we have amazing music in the film. Zebrahead, Black Lab. I secured a song for the trailer by the lead singer of Candlebox, Kevin Martin. And I would put the soundtrack up against any other 80s or 90s movie, hands down.
Definitely. That's awesome. Very cool. Well, let's do this. Let's for people who want to follow the film, I do know that, let's see here. I think you're on Instagram, I believe. Is it Another Day Flick?
That sounds right. I didn't start that because, like I said, I don't understand Instagram. I had somebody
Okay.
put that up for me. So, and we haven't
And
updated it in a very long time.
I
So I
just
would also,
see yours is at Greg.Kirkpatrick as well on Instagram.
no, that is not me.
That's not you.
That
Oh,
is
okay.
not me. There's a 77 in mine.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's Greg.Kirkpatrick.77, something like that.
Okay. All right. At Greg.Kirkpatrick77. And
Mhm.
then you have a Facebook page for Another Day,
Yes,
which
that
is
is
just
also Another Day Flick.
if you type in Another Day in Facebook, it'll pop up the especially the logo that's behind you there, so that way people can
Yes.
find it. So, but yes, so that's a couple of ways. How else can they kind of track the progress of the film?
Really, that's the best. I haven't been focused much on the website ever since we went into production on the film. So while I'm just focused on post, I don't really update as much as I should. We have over 600 followers on Facebook. I could probably have tripled
As
that
you
by
say, it's
now.
610 on there right now, baby.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't think I've made an honest to God update since I announced that we secured Fly Days from Zebrahead for the soundtrack, and that was over a year ago. Um, I don't know. I guess I prefer to kind of keep to myself at this point, and
No
then just
worries.
drop it. And then somebody comes out and writes this ridiculously amazing review, and you Google, and all of a sudden it's the first thing that pops up, and you're making it hard to keep myself incognito, man, because
Well,
what
speaking
you
of,
wrote, like, that was amazing, and I kept waiting for the part where it's like, however, it's a piece of shit because, and it never happens. So that was, again, super flattering, and it's so nice to talk to somebody who just understood it. They get it, because you kind of either get it or you don't.
well, I definitely got it. And the review, so our review of Another Day is at the it's at www.milwaukeeindependentfilmawards.com. You can click on our review button, and you can scroll down. October 19th, I'm looking at it right now, is the review for Another Day. And obviously, as we mentioned, there is at greg.kirkpatrick77 on Instagram or on Facebook. There's the Another Day page as well. And hopefully we'll get to see more updates from Greg Kirkpatrick Jr. And thank you so much, Greg, for jumping on here. When people get to see it, I know it's going to be a treat, because it was definitely a treat for me.
Thank you so much, Ezekiel. Thank you for the time. Thanks for inviting us. Thank you for the review. Um, thanks for the pink suit. Just all the way around, man. Just super humbled by you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Take care, Greg.
You as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.